In this video, we're going to be taking a look at a topic that I get questions about a lot, and that is resizing a rhinestone design. Now, you really can't quote unquote resize a rhinestone design. It's just the very nature of rhinestone designing. But there are certain techniques that we could employ to resize a design, but it does take a bit of skill, and that's really what we're going to talk about. It's just a kind of a broad technique, if you will, of how you might resize a rhinestone design. Now, it's every design is going to be a little bit different, but maybe you can learn some of the principles here and take it in and utilize it for some of your other design work. So here we have a very simple football helmet, and if I select my football helmet, right now it is 4.5 by 4 inches. The problem with this football helmet is my customer has requested a football helmet that is roughly 4 inches, but all in SS10. And this particular helmet has a few SS10s, but is mostly SS6s. Now, if we were to resize the SS10 stones, which I'm going to show you how to do, just so you could see how you would resize this design. So if we wanted all the stones to be SS10, that we can do. What we can't do is have all the stones SS10 and keep the 4-inch size, at least not in an automated way. So let me show you how to make all the stones SS10 fairly easily. What we're going to do is highlight one stone, and first of all let me switch over to millimeters and highlight one stone. You can see this stone is 2.6, which is the whole size that we use for SS6 stones for our templates. So what you would do is take your target stone size, which in my case I use 3.4, and I divide that by the current stone size, which is 2.6, and that gives us 1.307. Should always have a calculator on your desk to make these calculations. So 1.307, what does that mean? What that's really telling us is if we resize the design 130.7%, it will make our 2.6 size circles 3.4s. So let's just try my theory. So we select the whole thing with the weed box, and we resize 130.7. And if we select one of the stones now, you'll see that it is in fact really close to 3.4, right? So then what I would do to get it exact 3.4 is just come over here, make sure that my size is 3.4, and hit resize replace. And all I would do is resize and replace every one of those stones. And even these 6 stones that were larger have now been reduced in size, and you can see every single stone is in fact 3 by 4, or 3.4 rather. So then the next question is well, and like I said, do I really recommend that you utilize this technique? Not really, because in certain cases it's going to work, other cases it isn't, and so you maybe get frustrated really fast. I've done a lot of rhinestone designs, so I kind of know what to do. So let me just show you the technique, and then you could decide if you want to use it or not for your particular situation. So the technique is this. The first thing that I would do in most every design is recolor control points. A stone that I know I don't want to move. So like this corner stone right here, I'm going to just give it a pink color. And this is a cornerstone. I might give it a pink color. Come around, maybe I want that to be a fixed point. So these are all the stones in pink are the stones that I wouldn't change the color of, or wouldn't change the position of. So we'll just go ahead and highlight some of these here. So like these are 2 endpoints, so I'd turn those to pink and just kind of go through here. Those become endpoints. These intersections are usually endpoints, and intersections are the stones that I pay close attention to. And when you resize the design, you'll see what's going to happen. It can get confusing very quickly. So we just go through and pinpoint some of these special areas. And like I said, the more you do of this, the easier it'll be to make these decisions of what should be marked. And like I said, I've done enough of it to know that's good enough for my purpose of showing you what we're going to do here. So we know we want the helmet to be 4 inches. So what I would do is switch back over. The customer requested a 4-inch helmet. So switch back over and change our design size to 4 inches. Boom. So we know that the widest point in our design is 4 inches. But, of course, in doing so, we've changed the size of our dots, and we know that the customer wants all SS10s. So again, we have our size, which I use for SS10 of 3.4, and I hit Resize Replace. So now we have quite a mess, don't we? Well, what we can do here is, because we have the basis of our design, what we can do is modify and tweak this basis point. And where we start in the design really doesn't matter, but let's just start with this string. Because we have our colored dots, first of all, let me right click on my weed box and lock it down so I can't accidentally click it. But this is essentially what we'd have to do for the whole design. What we would do is, we have our start and end point here on our pink. So what we're going to do is we're going to delete one of those stones. Now we have a couple of choices. We could, if we wanted to, because we have this kind of basis point, we could actually use the center points of those two and create a new line. Okay, and let's just go ahead and give it yellow so we can see that. So we could do that, and we could come in here then and delete those, and then we could come in here and we could go ahead and go back to our stone tab here and choose add stones and add new stones in there. Okay, so that would be one technique. Now in this technique where we have this pink stone and we have these two, just, there's not room for two, so just remove one and reposition. Same thing here, there's not room for three, so just remove one and reposition, and now there's room for those two. Same thing here, just delete one because there's not room for two. And all you can do is all you can do, right? So just like here, we'll remove this one. Now in a case like this where it's really, really close, what we could do is we could tweak the design. So we'll push this one out. Because there's room to make this adjustment, we'll go ahead and make it. So we'll move this one over, and thereby we'll go ahead and move this one over, and likewise we'll go ahead and reposition these two. So you're just kind of tweaking the design a little bit, and we're going to go through the whole design here so you can really see the whole process. Okay, now likewise here, there's room here for this one, so we're just going to push this one up, push it up a little bit more, get that distance there that we need, and this could be moved up and this can be moved up. Obviously there's not room here for two, so when it's tight like this, we can make those tweaks that we need to make. And at the end of the day, you have to decide what is going to make more sense for you. Now here's another situation where we have a nice fluid curve. So what I would do is I would just come in here and go ahead and recreate that path. I'll go ahead and give it a color, and then you can come in here and delete. Just come in here and delete all those stones. I'm just clicking on them and hitting the delete key on my keyboard, and then just go ahead and add new stones for that section. And then once those stones have been added, then we can come in here. I should point out too, a little trick, if we hold down the Alt key, that helps us pinpoint a stone too if we have stone and a path really close to one another. So see, we can make that small adjustment there. So here we will just move this stone up. And here we have a situation where we have room. We just have to adjust these stones a little bit. So we can, you can kind of reposition things, and we're getting there. So in this space here, I would probably go ahead and adjust these stones as well. Just as we go, I'm just kind of adjusting. Now there's a big space there, so we'll see if we can't maybe minimize that space a little bit. Just nudge those stones around and then pull this stone up. Something like that. And so you can see that one of the big things in doing this video, you're gonna see very quickly, it's not easy to go in and quote unquote resize a rhinestone design. That's why it's real critical to get all those parameters up front from our customers if we're doing custom design work, so we don't have a situation like this where we have to redo a design. But I had to make a choice when my customer wanted a 4-inch helmet, is to either redo the entire design or just make these little tweaks, and I decided that it would be easier for me just to make these little modifications to the design. So that's just what I chose for myself. And I might get halfway done here and decide that that was a bad choice, and then I'll learn next time not to make the same mistake again. So alright, so let's go ahead and delete one of those stones there and nudge and maneuver and change. And same thing here. We might have to get rid of 2 stones for this space. And you just have to kind of keep going at it and decide what you got to do to make it all look right. It'll all come together in the end. So don't panic if it doesn't come together perfectly right away for you. And the more, like I said, the more experience you have, the better you're going to do at making these choices here. So now we have this fluid curve again. So again, what I would do is grab that 3-point curve tool, and what we can easily redo, we just redo. So this is one thing that we can easily redo. So we'll just come in here, make these 3-point curves, and having these existing shapes to snap to, really kind of helpful in doing that. So again, switch back over to my tool here, and we'll get rid of these shapes that we don't want. I probably should have taken that new path and given it an outline color that I could see really well. Alright, so then we'll go ahead and take that and we'll choose add stones to it. There we go. And now we can kind of continue to fill in this area here. So we know that that stone kind of lines up there. And just kind of reposition things a little bit. Here, there's only room for one, really. Same thing here. So, and having those control points, whoops, deleted one too many there. Like this pink stone, we know that's a control point, so we won't mess with that too much if we can help it. And then we can adjust up to this pink stone. Alright, and then I think there's room here for these two, so we'll go ahead and reposition those. And then we have a little bit more work to do here. Repositioning that. Alright, and then up here, let's see, what do we want to do here? Let's go ahead and reposition these a little bit. I'm going to just delete that one. I'll reposition this one. And reposition this one. We can bring that over. We'll just kind of respace these a little bit because they are a little bit close to one another. Try to even them out as best we can as we're doing this change. Very good. Alright, so here we have just a straight line. So here's where I would probably come in. Draw a straight line. Again, let's give it a color so it's a little bit easier to see against the black. Because when we go in to remove these stones, it'd be hard to see that line. And we'll go ahead and choose add stones for those. Now we have this little curly-coo all the way around. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to delete a stone and probably 2 stones. And probably just go ahead and just tweak these a little bit as we go around. Usually real simple curves. I'll create a new line. See, now I get to a point where I know I need to delete another stone, so just go ahead and delete it and just retouch these stones a little bit. You get to a point where you think you need to delete another one, just go ahead. No one's going to hurt you. We can always add it again if we need to, but I think that looks pretty good. Here we got basically a straight line, but and you know, honestly, we probably should just go ahead and, because we have that straight line, sometimes when you have these curves it's hard to catch one, so I'll use that Alt key to pick that stone up and move it. We have another function in here. Let's go ahead and break those stones apart. We have another function in here where we can select two stones and hit Shift Add Stones, and see, this distance is very short between these two, so it doesn't want to do that, but otherwise it certainly could do that for us. But let's just go ahead and we're going to just draw a straight line and then choose Add Stones. There we go. And you see that spacing between? If we want to increase that, see what it would look like with one more stone in there. Now you can see how tight that spacing is, and you can decide which you like. And I think I can live with that, so I'm just going to leave it like it is. So you can see it does take a fair bit of work, but it's definitely doable. So don't be afraid to make these changes, you know, because honestly, and then of course once we have it done, then it's done. You know, we don't have to do it again. Now here's a situation where there's really not enough room there for the stones like it is, so we'll just tweak it. We'll just push this one up. So let's just push that one up, make it so there is enough room, make enough adjustments so there is enough room, and then we'll just have to go ahead and adjust these accordingly. And it's just a minor modification there, so not a huge deal. And then the same thing going down the other way. Modify those stones as we need to. There we go. And then I'll probably delete one here. Kind of tweak those around a little bit. Alright. We're getting close here. So let's just double check. Okay, I see here's a stone that's kind of tight. Here's a stone that's a little tight. And then we'll check the rest of it here. Alright, I think that looks pretty good. All of that, so now we just have this one line going around the outside. So that's easy enough to do. We'll grab our 3-point curve tool, and we're going to just recreate that path that those stones sit on, because it's fairly easy to do. So we'll just create 3 or 4 little curves. I do want to get right to the center point on one of those stones there, and then come all the way back around over here. So we've recreated that path, so now we can come in here and delete the stones that we don't need. Now the path is still there, can't hardly see it because I didn't turn it to yellow, but now I did, so now we can see it a lot better. Alright, so now you can see that original path, so we'll go ahead and click Add Stones to it. That puts all the stones back in. Now we do have some stones touching over here, so we'll just make a small edit. We'll use our Shape Edit tool here, double click on it to add a node, and then when we hit the double click on the end node, it'll trim it back to that point, to that node that we added. Alright, so now let's go ahead and select the entire design. Some of these stones that we added are on a path, some aren't, so we're going to choose this break stones function. We broke those stones. Now we're going to select our entire design, come over to Selection tab and hit Delete Stoned Paths, and that gets rid of those yellow paths that we added to the design. And then the final thing to do is probably, I'm just going to come in here and I'm going to select both pink and light cyan stones, and I'm going to come to my Selection tab and choose Mark, and then I'm going to select the entire design and hit Fill and hit Create Selection. And basically what that's doing is selecting all the stones that I turned pink and light cyan, and it's allowing me to change the color of them. So let's say I want a Capri Blue helmet. I hit Rename and Fill, and now everything's Capri Blue except those few that are crystals. And now you can see we have a great looking design. I select the entire design. It is roughly 4 inches as requested, so that's cool. And so my customer is going to be happy. I didn't have to redraw the whole design from scratch. Could I have in the same amount of time that it took me to modify the existing one? Probably, but oh well. That wasn't my point. And so the customer wants a template like this, so we're going to just hit delete, and we're going to select everything again, and then we're going to come over here to miscellaneous, add weed box. And I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to back up a second because I want a little bit of space between my helmets, and we'll select it again, and then again we will choose add weed box. And another thing that we're going to do, we're going to select one of these stones and we're going to mark it, and I'm going to make a selection of just the right hand side helmet, and then I'm going to come over here and change. First of all, I'm going to select fill, and this is one of the great features of EasyStone. We're going to say pick up a fill, but only in the area that I have selected. So when I hit create selection, it selects all the Capri blue stones of the right side helmet, not the entire helmet, not the entire design. So that's one really cool feature here in EasyStone. And we're going to go light cyan, and we're going to hit rename and fill, because this is generally something like what our finished product would be. And then of course we could put, you know, our two teams' names, or maybe put a little letter in there to signify, you know, Vikings versus the Cowboys or whatever. But anyhow, you get the picture, you get the idea. That is how we go about changing up a rhinestone design, making it smaller. It's just one technique of many that you could possibly utilize in your rhinestone design. Thanks for watching.